Hope everyone had a great weekend and welcome to another edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. Pearson juggling, Paul Dottino next to me.
Hello.
201-939-4513. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We're back live, which is great. Our top men have figured out their issues for the most part, pending something else. But yeah, thanks for being with us. Dottino, I know, has some very strong thoughts on the Pro Bowl that he wants to share that I will henceforth make fun of him for. We can look ahead to the Super Bowl a little bit. We'll wrap up the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl as well. The game, obviously, in Mobile got played this weekend. So all of that, but whatever you want to talk about, guys, on the phones at 201-939-4513. We'll dip more into free agency as we move ahead this week. Mr. Dottino, I will let you lead off with your... So we're eating lunch in the cafeteria before we start, and I said, so Paul, what do you want to open with on BBK? He says, John, I have some very strong feelings about what that Pro Bowl was this weekend, and you're probably going to make fun of me for it. And I said, I probably will. Commence.
Yes, sir. When the AFC and NFC were formed, when the AFL and NFL merged for the 1970 season, and they created the Pro Bowl.
Here we go.
And you will see, if you go on Twitter, there are a number of these guys, nostalgia buffs, who have put highlights of those first few Pro Bowls on Twitter.
Okay.
Well, they can't be that old if they're putting highlights on Twitter. They must be pretty good at it, right? They got to be young people, don't they?
No, or maybe
old people don't know how to do that.
Well, maybe they've adapted to modern life.
Okay. In any event, here's my point. You can go on those old clips and see that they played those games for real. Now, it was only until, I want to say maybe the mid-'90s when the Pro Bowl started to become a bit of a mockery and guys weren't hitting each other. They weren't really tackling.
I don't remember when the Pro Bowl wasn't a mockery, so...
Okay, well, when you go back to what?
I was born in 81, so do the
right.
math.
So you figure about 10 years old, early 90s. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's about the time where it really changed.
So
okay?
You're still holding a grudge for 30 years.
No.
Yes, that's what
it's just like. It's just that I looked forward to the Pro Bowl because it was another game. And I always looked forward to seeing the competition, and I looked forward to watching my favorite players, whether they were Giants or not. There were certain guys I wanted to see in the game. The way they did it this week, and I know it's become a mockery in the last 20 years. I understand.
30.
All right, whatever. 30. And it
longer than Pierce has been alive.
Well,
okay.
it became touch football. Is what it became.
Yeah, so
it was horrible.
So this year they turned it into touch football.
Okay, so they turned it into a skills competition and flag football.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I couldn't stomach it. It was horrible. I'm sorry, John, but it was just horrible. It was not football.
I have not watched a Pro Bowl in 20 years. The only reason that streak ended this year is because I tuned in on Sunday at 6 o'clock to ESPN to watch the Knicks and Sixers.
Yes.
But the flag football game had gone over, so I had to watch 20 minutes of that before they started televising Knicks Sixers.
Eli beat Peyton.
He's the coach.
Yes, Eli.
Oh, my God.
Love it. But anyway, here's the problem, John, right? Here's the problem.
Take a picture of that, Pierce.
At least in the old Pro Bowl, right? If you were a fan of a certain team and you knew your guys made it,
yeah,
right?
Mm-hmm.
You could tune into the Pro Bowl game and look for your guys and see whatever they did. Mm-hmm. You remember the year where Victor Cruz set a Pro Bowl record with 12 catches in the game?
Yeah, and
that was fun.
I didn't even watch it. I couldn't care less.
I did.
I know, but you're a loser.
And I was keeping track. And I was like, he's going to break the record. And he did.
You weren't like taking notes during the game, were you?
It was great. Back in the day, I had fun watching it.
Oh, my God.
All right, here's what they did. John, they turned it into this skills competition and then this 7-on-7 flag football thing. For example, if you're a Giants fan and you wanted to see Dexter Lawrence, you couldn't find him.
I'm sure he did one of the skills competitions.
He did one of the skills competitions, but when they actually got to the games, because there were lone linemen involved in the games, all the offensive linemen and defensive linemen, except for the center, did not play in the games. He was reduced to, they kept showing him all the time. He's shooting videos and doing snapshots and stuff. It's like, that's not what I wanted to see Dexter Lawrence do. I don't go on vacation with the man. If I wanted to see him shoot pictures, I'd go on a vacation with him. Right? Okay. I could see this is not going anywhere.
No, I'm letting you. All you said you wanted to say your piece. I'm letting you say your piece.
Okay, but you
go ahead.
But you understand that I'm upset about this. It made me very, very upset. I did not enjoy this.
I understand.
So would you rather have the touch football they've been doing?
No, I want the real Pro Bowl back from the 70s.
Old man yells at clouds would be the
There
theme
you
of
go. Now, here's the reason
title
why.
the podcast.
All right, but here's the thing.
That's what you should.
As much as
Take a
I
picture of it
love
right
the
now.
real Pro Bowl, let me make something clear to you, John, because I know this is a big joke. I get it. But here's the problem. Because the game has become such big business, the players don't want to play a real Pro Bowl anymore because they're making so much money they don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, and the fans don't want them to get hurt either, by the way.
Okay, I get that.
How would you feel if Dexter Lawrence walked out of that game with the torn ACL?
I would be crushed. Now, they had apparently 50,000 fans in Las Vegas for this thing. And that's what they served them. Okay, whatever. That's like cold mashed potatoes.
There might have been a buffet involved. It was Las Vegas, no?
Yeah,
buffet?
maybe. In any event, I have expressed my strong feelings. I'm very glad to move on. I understand that you can't appreciate this.
No, I want that. I'm letting you. I'm not arguing with you. I'm letting you
well,
go.
you're very nice.
I'm
It's
letting
very
you
nice
go.
of you to let me do this.
Yes.
Because I'm visibly upset.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
This 3-day Pro Bowl games was an absolute farce.
But it's been a farce for 30 years.
Okay, but see, if they're not going to do a real Pro Bowl the way it was meant to be when they created it, then they just shouldn't do it. Just don't do it at all.
Not when you can make more money.
Well, now you, John, you got to the crux of it all.
That's the crux of everything, Paul.
This is
It's all about money.
This is a multi-level skills event that is
Fine.
all about marketing because,
Yeah, of course it is.
in any event.
In
But see,
my
the original.
opinion, all All-Star games are kind of becoming that way.
Yes, they are
Yes.
becoming that way. 100%.
It's very sad. They used to be a lot better. In all sports, they were better. The NBA All-Star game was a lot better years ago, too.
At least in the NBA, for like the last 5 minutes of the game, the guys start taking it seriously.
Yeah, they do. They do. The NHL is ridiculous. They do 3-on-3s now.
Oh, is that what they do? I have no
it's
idea.
terrible. It's terrible. It's not. I understand people today, because of the injury factor, because of the money involved, because everything's about marketing and it's about making it appealing to young people and so forth and so on. I get it. This is what it's morphed into. From a business perspective, I totally understand it, John. I just remember the way things used to be when it was a real game, and it was a hell of a lot of fun.
What do you think of Dexter
Anyway.
Lawrence's videography skills, and could that impact his contract extension? Hello?
Okay.
No thoughts.
I'm done.
How about Saquon getting whaled in the face with the dodgeball? Did you see that?
By the way,
Were you very upset about that? Did that hit you or
well,
hurt?
no, I was okay with that. What I did think, though, was in the dodgeball thing, he was making so many quick action moves, left, right, this, that, twisting. I'm like, don't get hurt.
Yet you want to play a real football game.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense.
Okay, I'm done. Let's move on.
Okay, fine.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me a chance.
No, I'm
Thank you.
I'm happy to give you a platform to do whatever that was.
Okay. Just remember one thing. There was a real Pro Bowl at one time, and it was played for real. Just remember that. It did exist.
I understand.
And nobody laughed at it when they played it.
I understand.
Okay.
All right, so we can also, by the way,
Yes.
wrap up the Senior Bowl. You can go to my reports online and check them out. Your thoughts, Paul, on the Senior Bowl from watching the game, and give me some of your takes, and then I'll kind of run down some of mine. real quick.
John, I wasn't that thrilled with the game, to be honest. I've seen better games in recent years. I thought the Shrine Bowl was very disappointing. That was a field goal competition, not very well attended. And then in watching the Senior Bowl, Wilson, the wide receiver, which I know you've written about during the course of the week, was a curiosity to me, but I'm still not enthralled with this receiver group and with the guys that I saw in that game. It was kind of obvious that everything we talked about the other day, that the offensive linemen were actually the best group. There seems to be the most potential there.
I agree.
They showed it in the game.
Yeah.
If you watched it in the game, I don't know how many folks watched the practices, but if you watched the game, it was clear. The offensive linemen were doing a good job in the running game, and they were doing a good job in pass protection. To me, that was the best overall unit in the game, and I think we agreed that during the week, from the limited clips I saw and from what you saw being there, it was the same way.
Yeah, they were good.
Now, what I would have liked to have seen more of in the game was the corners. I didn't see enough from the corners, and I wanted to get excited by the corners, but I didn't think the quarterbacks weren't good enough.
Yeah, the types of passes they were throwing really didn't give the corners a chance to show off their skills.
No, and that's what I was anxious to see. That's why I was really trying to study the game, because that's what I wanted to see, and I didn't really get to see that. So, it is what it is. Those are my capsule thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. I thought running back might have been the strongest class there. I thought
blocking was good, though.
Backs were great.
You know, when you get those kinds of holes, too.
Yeah, but if you watch these guys during the week, their explosion and their ability to
I understand.
like Tyjae Spears was excellent. Eric Gray from Oklahoma was good. I like Kenny McIntosh from Georgia. Roshan Johnson only practiced one day, but he was big and powerful. Right up, he's 6 foot 220s, right up your alley. And then Chase Brent out of Illinois, I thought did a really nice job as well. Sneeze.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bless you.
It was getting there. And then, his twin brother, Sidney Brown, I thought was one of the best safeties there all week. Darius Rush out of South Carolina, corner was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say, you mentioned Michael Wilson, a wide receiver. Jaden Reed from Michigan State was pretty good. Rashi Rice was okay from SMU, though he doesn't have a lot of juice. Luke Musgrave is a tight end. People should keep an eye on. He could be a beginning of second round and the first round type of pick.
I thought he kind of flashed some. I'd like to see him block a little better, but I thought he flashed some.
I'll give you some of the names of the offensive linemen just so Giant fans can start getting used to these names. Osiris Torrance, I thought, was the best interior line, probably best lineman there, period, out of Florida. He was a transfer from Louisiana Lafayette, followed Napier from there to Florida. He could be a first-round pick, probably the only interior lineman that's going to be a first-round pick. John Michael Schmitz, I thought, was the best center there. From Minnesota, he was very good. Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse, good. Steve Avila, really big, powerful guard from TCU, was really good. Jalen Duncan, tackle out of Maryland, I thought did a nice job. Cody Mock, who was a tackle in North Dakota State, he's going to play inside because he's got little T-Rex arms in the NFL, so he'll play guard or center. First time he ever played guard or center was at the Senior Bowl, and he wasn't great, but he was okay, which, considering it's the first time him doing it, I thought he did a nice job. DeJuan Jones, only a one day of practice, 6'8", 370-pound right tackle, was dominant in first day of practice. And Darnell Wright, the tackle from Tennessee, I thought did a really good job. The pass rushers didn't jump out to me. I thought Keon White was pretty good as a pass rusher from Georgia Tech. Adetomiwa Adedabore, out of Northwestern. Little stout, 6'1", 280-pound defensive tackle, really good low-leverage guy. I thought he looked pretty good over the course of the week. Edge rushers, KJ Henry out of Clemson. Will McDonald, small guy, 240, but he has 35-inch arms out of Iowa State. I thought he was the best guy on the outside in terms of burst. Linebackers, D. Winters, Ivan Pace, no one that I would pick probably inside of the first couple of rounds. I mentioned Darius Rush at corner. Caillou Blue Kelly out of Stanford had a couple picks during the week, as did Rush. I thought he was good at corner. Riley Moss out of Iowa I thought did a nice job. This is a guy that I would circle if I'm a Giants fan. In fact, there's two of them, but I'll give you this one first because of his size. Because he kind of matches, I think, what Wink likes. 6'3", out of Kansas State, Julius Brents. Tall guy. I think he's going to run really well at the combine. Wink loves long, athletic guys at corner, so he's someone I would keep an eye on. And then Tyreek Stevenson, good size, power, and speed at corner, just 6 foot but 204 pounds. Held a lot, a little too physical, but showed kind of his athleticism and his physical ability. I thought he did a pretty nice job. And I mentioned Sidney Brown at safety. Christopher Smith is kind of one of those slot safety hybrids, but those are the kind of the guys that jumped out to me.
I think when we go to the combine, John, and we got those details finalized, it'll be the end of the month. It's going to be very interesting because this is the first time since we've been going that the Giants are picking very low. They're picking 25 in the first round.
Yeah, after the 2016 season would have been the last time.
Yeah, and so this is a very different way to go now because in years past, I approach the combine with the thinking of, okay, I'm pretty sure I know what positions, I know what the strength of the position groups are, and I got a pretty good idea of guys who should probably go somewhere in the top 12 to 15. And it was a lot easier to focus on those groups and those players and the possible options. That's what the deal was. Now, with the Giants picking 25, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I can approach this the same way. I don't think you can.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think all these guys that jump on our show are going to be excited because we're not going to ask them the same questions about the top 10 picks.
Well, that's
we're
true.
We're going to be asking them about all these other positions.
That is true. That is true. I think it's unfortunate that while we mentioned last year the draft matched up with what the Giants were looking for, the fact that the wide receiver group is not a great group this year is disappointing.
Well, that's why and we're going to start recording these mock draft review videos for Giants.com today, and there's a lot of wide receivers on there. I'll just tease it and say
there
that.
There are some, yeah.
For me, Paul, I don't know if there's going to be a big enough difference between the wide receiver you can get at 25 and the one that you can get at 57 or 58, whatever the Giants are picking in the second round, where, I don't know, maybe wide receiver in the first round isn't the way to go.
There's no Jamar Chase here. That's the point.
I mean, look, if you take this wide receiver class and you put it in you combine last year's and this year's class, the first receiver from this year, and that's not even the Jamar Chase year. That's last year with Dotson, London,
Smith,
Olave,
Tony.
Waddle. No, Tony was 2 years ago.
That's right, 2 years ago.
Not Waddle. Jamison Williams. That group from last year. Maybe the 5 guys get picked before you even get to one receiver from this class.
This is not a real exciting group, and
not to say that you're not going to find players, because remember there was that year. Oh gosh, what was it? 5 years ago now, where not one wide receiver was picked in this first round, but Terry McLaurin went in round 3. Deebo Samuel went in round 2. Metcalf went in round 2, so you can get good players later at wide receiver. You just got to find them.
Need I remind Giants fans, Toomer was a second-round pick, Manningham was a third-round pick, Victor Cruz was undrafted.
You can find wide receivers.
It's not like you can't get one, but the excitement and the thrill of thinking you're going to get one in the first round, I don't know that there's a great value there that's going to make it a good fit for them. And the other thing is, too, John, to be honest.
And by the way, a ton of corners in the first round, too, so I'm not sure if any going to be left by the time the Giants pick at 25.
I don't know. It doesn't look like there will be if you read some of these projections.
And you're looking at 4 or 5 off the board before the Giants even make a pick.
Right. Exactly.
Crazy.
And that's a shame because they probably would love to get themselves another one of those too. And you usually don't draft interior linebackers that high, not in today's game.
Yeah, off-ball linebackers and guards and centers aren't necessarily what you're targeting for first-round picks. But the Giants could theoretically get the first guy at either one of those spots if they like one of them enough.
Well, like when they got Collins and they got McKinney as the first safety left on their board, but it was the top of the second round.
Right.
So, this is a different dynamic. When I'm going out there with you this time, John, it's a totally different approach, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want to zero in on things.
And look, and we'll still talk some stuff at the top of the draft because it's NFL-related and impacts the Giants with trades. But, it's good. It's a little different.
It is different.
201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Just as a reminder, folks, go subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. The podcast features a couple episodes each week. We talk to national analysts, draft analysts, Giants reporters, in-house guys, you name it. We talk to them right here on Giants.com, the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere. Make sure you go check it out. Subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. All right, let's get to the phones. We got full bank of calls. You guys do a great job. We really appreciate it. Let's go to Hugo in New Jersey. He will lead us off today. Hey, Hugo.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. And just reflecting on the comments you just made, there's probably more than one way to skin the cat and improve the passing game. I think where the talent kind of meets where we're drafting this year is maybe in the tight end pool, a nice two-way tight end that helps both the passing game and running game might be one way to, improve things without reaching for a receiver.
Yeah, Hugo, I think that's an interesting thought, and I have actually thought about that too. And here's the thing, and I'm curious to get your opinion, Hugo, and your opinion, Paul, because I've thought about this. For me, Daniel Bellinger's a really good player, but I almost look at him as more like your tight end 2 in
Yep.
a team that runs a lot of 12 personnel because he's probably a little bit better of a blocker than a receiver. He's not going to beat guys one-on-one and stuff. So, yes, I agree. I think you want to try to find a guy that's maybe a receiver first. But at the same time, and I think we saw this at the end of the year, I think if Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka have their druthers and they can handpick their personnel, I think they want to be in 11 all the time. I don't get the sense that they want to run a lot of 12 personnel. That's not my feeling. I
tend to agree with you.
So I don't know if given that, do you want to use a first-round pick on a tight end? Because Hugo, I'm with you. I think the value might actually meet better at tight end in that spot than wide receiver. I agree with you 100%. And Hugo, I'll get to you in a second. But Paul, that's kind of how I think about it. Like, based on how they want to use their personnel, is a tight end in the first round something that makes sense for the staff? I'm not sure.
Even after being around these guys for a year, we don't know how much they tweak things out of necessity or because that's the way they really want to run them, which is the question you're talking about. We just don't know what their preferred alignments and schemes would be.
I do know once they found receivers they liked, we saw a whole lot of 11 personnel.
We did.
Yeah.
We absolutely did. And to be honest with you, okay, when you think about Bellinger's upside, and I know the Giants like him an awful lot, okay?
He's never going to be Travis Kelce.
He's never going to be one of those guys, but could he be a 45, 50 catch guy?
Yeah,
maybe.
I think so. Maybe I think that's possible.
Yeah.
Sure. And it might not be a lot of down the field stuff. It'll be short stuff, dump offs, play action, leaks, stuff like that.
Like I've said forever, to me, he's Jake Ballard 2.0. And there's nothing wrong with Jake Ballard. You can go to a Super Bowl with Jake Ballard. Hell, they did. So maybe that's the role of this time. Maybe they got the guy who fits the tight end role that they want.
Yeah, like a Dan Campbell type almost, except a little bit of a better receiver. Maybe.
Yeah. So
I'm
maybe even though the value's there, maybe tight end is not something they're really interested in.
Go ahead, Hugo.
Yeah, look, I think as the year progressed, they tried to do something interesting with the tight end group, sort of what they did with the receiver group, right? They had a possession guy, a speed guy, and a twitchy guy in the slot, right? That's where we ended up.
Yeah.
And then the tight end group kind of evolved towards the end of the year too, with Lawrence Cager as maybe that pass catcher and Bellinger as the two-way, and Vanette as the blocker, right? So, they're kind of fitting roles, but I always see value in one tight end who could do it all, sort of like George Kittle.
100%.
That really puts a lot of
we agree.
Don't bring up George Kittle to me, please.
Oh, and by the way, Hugo, you're right. Look, you have Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. You have Musgrave out of Oregon State. You have the kid out of Utah, McFall. I'm trying to remember what his name is, who's also very good. Then you have a kid out of South Dakota State that's actually a really good player, too. So there are going to be some good tight ends available.
Yeah. Well, but the real reason I called, guys, is I just circled back to the Joe Shane presser. He said a lot of interesting things during that presser. And boy, you can't help but come away being impressed. I mean, he thinks about things in a very strategic way.
Dalton Kincaid out of Utah, by the way, is the tight end. I'm sorry, Dalton Kincaid. Go ahead.
There you go.
And one of the interesting things he said, and I think it was related to a question about Barkley, is that being a good locker room guy and good culture fit was a minimum requirement before they considered bringing anyone aboard or offering a contract. So in mathematics, that would be unnecessary but not a sufficient condition, let's just call it.
Yep.
Anyhow, having said that, I'm kind of marrying up something that you guys posted in an article that said that they're going to try to meet with everyone that they're going to put on their draft board. I think I'm paraphrasing it, but it was something like that. And how much importance they're putting on the interview process. Now, one thing that really has peeved me in the past and is related to some of our big misses in the first round. I'll talk Eric Flowers, Eli Apple, DeAndre Baker, Kadarius Toney. I wonder if we ever interviewed those guys because
we did.
Frankly, did we? Because when
Sure.
I saw, honestly, when I saw their first media introduction interviews, I kind of shook my head and kind of thought to myself, these guys don't really seem to be giant type players.
All right, you got to remember something. There are multiple ways a team can meet with a prospect. You can have a formal interview. You can have an informal interview. You can have a visit. Okay, these are all multiple ways.
And you can do it at the Senior Bowl or at the Combine.
Exactly.
That's correct. And you are correct, by the way, Hugo. Between the Senior Bowl and the Combine, they will have a face-to-face or, some type of conversation with pretty much every prospect that's going to be on their board. That's correct.
And then there's also the pro days.
Yeah.
So the truth of the matter is there are multiple ways you can have contact with a prospect. So whether or not they had a, quote, official visit with him, that doesn't really hold a lot of water because there are other ways you could meet him.
No, okay. So I understand. Look, I think my main point here is that with some of these players, you miss more on the person than you do on the athletic traits. And the fact that Joe Shane is emphasizing these interviews and the culture, it gives me some level of comfort that these type of mistakes will not be made going forward.
Well, smart,
Hugo,
tough, and
I hear you.
dependable,
I
right?
appreciate the call. And look, that's always been something that I think that they've found important. And I do think more so than the interviews, because these guys all get coached up by their agents and they get taught what to say and all that stuff. Having your scouts get into the background of these guys and talking to, the locker room guys, the cafeteria workers, other people from their past about these kids to get the straight dope on them. That to me is more important than figuring this stuff out than the interviews, only because I think these kids get so coached up on the interview process now, it's tough to really get a lot out of it. I know for a fact that they use a lot of the interview stuff for football stuff. They'll show them tape, they'll bring tape up, and they'll have to talk about what they saw and things like that.
I think the one thing that you want to keep in mind about when they're scouting these guys, years ago, the on-the-ground scouts who were in the different regions or in the different locations around the country, they were more focused on just the traits, the physical traits, over the years of scouting. And I can't tell you, maybe about a decade or so ago, they started to tell those on-the-ground scouts, you got to do more background stuff now. It used to be just the home base would do the background stuff, and the scouts were just looking at the physical traits. Now, everybody is responsible for doing some homework on backgrounds of the players. It wasn't always that way, John.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to one of the veteran scouts here just a few years ago. I'll leave him unnamed. And I said, in some ways, you have to kind of become an amateur psychologist now.
Yeah.
Because you need to do more of that background digging than you ever had to do before. He goes, I wasn't trained on how to do that. He goes, but we got to do it now. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and I don't know what the Giants do, but I know other teams use investigators to look into this stuff too.
Every team has an investigator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Hey, Giant fans, the Giants TV is the official streaming app of the Giants. It brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. Doug in Glen Falls is up next. Hey, Doug.
Hello.
Hello, John.
Hi, Doug.
Now, I don't know how many tight ends were at the Senior Bowl.
6.
There were 6 at the Senior Bowl?
Usually there are at least 3 or 4 on each team, yes.
Okay. Would you say that tight end class seems to be deep or not really?
This is one of the better tight end classes that we've had. I have not, dug into the what you're going to get in rounds 4 and 5 and anything like that. But you probably have 4 or 5 guys that are better than the best guy from last year's class in Trey McBride. So you're going to have it's a good class. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well piggybacking on what I forgot the guy that was on first about possibly having an extra tight end. Is there any of these tight ends that have the skill set that Ingram had, where he was that fast?
Yeah, most of these guys are actually bigger this year. You don't have a lot of those flex guys. Like I'm looking at the list here that like Dane Brugler has his top 15 rankings on the Athletic. He's one of the best. No one's under 240. So, Evan Ingram came in 225, something like that.
Yeah, blown up receivers in other words.
You don't have as many of those guys. There's actually a larger group of two-way tight ends in this year's class than we've had in the last couple of years. One guy actually, Elijah Higgins, who played wide receiver at Stanford, but is like 230 pounds, 228 pounds. I was talking to him at the Senior Bowl, and go check that in the Johnson podcast. I did a bunch of quick interviews with a lot of the prospects, and he told me teams have been telling him that they want him to be like that F-move tight end. So that's something to keep an eye on.
You know, one thing I would add here to this whole conversation about what we're looking at schematically and if a tight end's important, there's a report that came out today by one of, and I'm forgetting which national guy it is.
Garofalo, the Kafka in Arizona?
It wasn't Garofalo, it was somebody else.
Okay.
But if Garofalo said it too,
I think he did.
that Mike Kafka is a finalist for the Cardinals job. You know, and I'm sorry to say, but you know, if he does move on, you have to wonder how that might impact some of what the Giants want to do schematically. Even though I know Dable is the architect of everything from a general perspective, if Kafka leaves, you know, I would think, now I don't know this, John, but I would think we both agree that Tierney probably has a legitimate shot to move up into that spot.
If I had to bet what would happen, Tierney becomes the OC and Davis Webb becomes quarterbacks coach.
I would think so too. But
I don't know anything.
We don't know.
But that
we
would,
don't know that.
If I was to make like Vegas style odds on what it would look like, that would probably be what my Vegas odds would be at the top of the list.
So maybe it would not impact the Giants' philosophy regarding tight ends, but it could.
It could. It's a good question.
Thank you.
Got anything else, Doug? No?
I think he's
Well, the other quick thing I got, I'm not sure you're going to have to worry about Wink Martindale leaving because Jim Irsay, it's all about Jim Irsay right now. And he loves Jeff Saturday, even though Jeff Saturday ain't a great coach. Jeff Saturday is his guy, so I wouldn't, if I was Giants fans, I wouldn't worry about that much about Wink leaving to go to the Colts.
All right. Appreciate it, Doug.
Thank you.
I try to get Paul Dottino not to worry about stuff all the time, and I fail every time. So I'm not going to try to start now.
It's in my nature to worry, John.
Paul's worried about the timing on the schedule in the 2023 schedule right now. I'm not even.
I'm worried about how many primetime games we're going to have.
See?
I'm worried about how many Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night games we're going to have.
Can we make this a segment? Just what are you worried about, Paul?
Paul worries.
Yeah.
We could take it.
Yeah. The Agita Hour.
Yeah, it's not bad. Well, I'm not making. It's not going to be a full hour. I promise you that.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think we can have a little production made for that. That could be fun. I like
please. Go ahead.
that. We'll figure it out.
Who's next?
Wilson and Roxbury. Hi, Wilson.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hi.
Hey Paulie, before I get to my Daniel Jones point, you
Yes.
and Jonathan made me famous last week. I guess I called, and I guess one of my wife's husbands was watching, like me, and he said I was the only guy that can incorporate scotch, kitchen knives, and 2x4s from Home Depot into a sports show conversation. And it was hilarious. I mean, everybody was cracking up, man.
I'm not even gonna ask.
No, don't ask. Don't ask,
Not
Jonathan.
even gonna ask.
It was crazy. It was crazy funny. But anyway, it was nuts. But hey, listen. All kidding aside, I'm Daniel Jones. Real quick. Hey, listen. I don't know Daniel personally. Like, I don't know. You guys know him more than me. I don't. He doesn't seem the kid that will want their last dime. But I hope he doesn't get bad advice. And, John, you can help me on this one.
Now, keep in mind,
You remember?
he is Danny Dimes.
Well,
Just saying.
you're right. I guess you're right about that. But like I said, no.
Sorry.
All
I couldn't help it. That joke.
Yeah, well, I just want to give my word of advice. You guys remember Brock Osweiler?
Sure.
Yeah.
Did he beat? I don't know, John. You can let me help me out because you got the computer there. Did he beat the Patriots for the Broncos to go to the Super Bowl? Was he him?
Yep.
Yes.
He was, right? Okay. And you remember then, I guess, he took bad advice and he took a lot of money, which, hey, listen, I don't blame anybody.
Wait, Wilson, hold on. Why is it bad advice? He got a lot of money out of it. Why is that bad?
No, well, okay, but no, because he was out of the league in 2 years, Paul.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. He would have been out of the league in 2 years anyway, except he had about $15 more million. So, no, smart, Brock Osweiler. Smart. Cash in. No, Wilson, I'm not being funny. I'm being dead serious. It shows you how quickly things can change in the league. And when you have the chance to cash in, you cash in because you don't know when your next chance is going to be. It can change in an instant. in the NFL.
Right, I know, but
He's
but
right.
Listen, but I
He's
think,
absolutely right.
I think Daniel Jones is a much better quarterback than Brock.
Sure.
Osweiler.
Well, that's not
No,
the
but-
debate here. The debate is,
No, it's not
does the
debate
player
is-
have to maximize whatever he can get whenever that opportunity arises? That's the question. That's
right,
the question.
But listen, but if you go to a bad situation, right? I don't know. I guess it's. I mean, how much money actually are we talking about? I mean, 30 million, 35 million. I mean, when you're talking about that kind of money, don't you want like to grow as a player or just have money in the bank? I guess I mean nobody can answer that except Daniel Jones. But you know what I'm saying? You can go to a bad situation and have a lot of money in the bank and be out of the league.
Let me throw something into your salad here, okay?
Okay.
It was right after the season was over, and Leonard Williams was doing the locker room clean-out interview just down the hall here. And he flat out said, I love playing with Dexter Lawrence. He's like a brother to me, and I would take less money and even a pay cut to stay here because I want to play the next several years of my career with him by my side.
Now, it all depends what he means by pay cut, too.
Of course. Now
that might be contract extension, bring the cap number down, but he doesn't actually lose any money.
okay, nobody
Right.
knows exactly what he meant. But the point is, there will be circumstances where a player will value comfort perhaps a little bit more than that extra dollar.
Now,
that is true,
but usually
that will happen.
that happens on the third player contract, not the second player contract.
Right, because they want to squeeze that second one as much as they can.
Well, yeah,
usually.
because then you don't know if you're going to be able to get a third
Right,
one. Yeah.
right. Now Derek Carr is in the same boat now, right? He's probably going to get cut by the Raiders because they don't want to pay his $40 million guarantee. So he's going to
made
wind
a
up
lot of money already.
Right. But he's going to wind up being a free agent, right? And he's going to be out there. And Derek Carr is certainly, in my mind, one of the top 10 quarterbacks in this league. So now is he going to look for that kind of money? Or does he wind up taking less money to go to a team like Tampa because he likes the environment in Florida? He knows there's no taxes there to deal with, in terms of state tax.
Now that helps money-wise, though.
Right? and he thinks the Buccaneers have something going. Or does he go to some place like the Jets or the Panthers? He's got to think a lot of stuff to consider.
Yeah, for me, I don't want to get off track here, but I think the Jets are a better situation than the
I agree
Bucs.
with you. I think the Jets are a great situation for Derek Carr.
But listen, I think it's a little different when you're already cashed out already. I
agree with that.
Okay. No, what I'm saying is this. I mean, like I said, I don't know who's giving Daniel Jones advice.
His agent. That's who. His agent is giving him advice.
I don't count Joe Judge as a head coach. He was a bum, so I can't count.
Don't say that.
Win with,
don't say that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll take it back. But he wasn't a good head coach. Let's put it that way. So just count the first year of Daniel Jones and last year, 2 years. Does he want to start again with another head coach, another terminology, another offensive coordinator? I just don't know if all that. I mean, you're winning. You guys know this. He wins in New York. He'll be Eli again. So I don't know. I'm just saying. Hopefully, this kid doesn't take bad advice, and the situation doesn't become messy. Because Giants fans, we had a lot of mess this past 5 years, 6 years, and the last thing that Giants fans like myself want is mess. You understand? You guys understand what I'm saying?
Wilson, here's what I'll say to you. I do think.
I thank you for the call, Wilson. We appreciate it.
I do think, and I know you differ with me on this, I do think that Daniel Jones, because of the circumstances of how his career has gone to this point and the success that he's finally achieved, that there will be a hometown discount.
Oh, no, look. Here's
I do
the
believe
thing.
that.
It's a question what the level of the discount is and where the number starts, right? So there are levels to this. So again, these are not numbers that we think the Giants are offering Daniel or that we think Daniel was asked for the Giants. These are just random numbers that we're throwing out there, right? There's a big difference between $30 million and $35 million. That's one of six. That's between 15 and 18%. That's a significant amount of money.
Well, then if the guarantee also changes that too.
Right. But my point is that there's a difference between taking $5 million less a year and like $1 million less per year. So yeah, if it comes down to it and the Giants are like, $1 million per year less than another team and the Giants are the preferable situation, yeah, I think he would end up picking the Giants because that would be your hometown discount.
Right.
But when you start looking at like $30 million over the course of like a 5-year deal,
But what if they guarantee?
that's more than a discount.
What if they guarantee him $10 million more than
Well,
the other
I mean,
team?
but we're not talking
So
about that.
but
though.
there are
Yeah,
ways
right.
to do it.
Right, but
There are
we're
ways to
no,
do it.
but then it's not a discount if you're getting guarantees out of it. So the point is that how much is he willing to hurt himself financially to stay with the Giants? Whether that's in guarantees or money per year, however you want to look at it.
What
How much
triggers
is
will he be willing to
Yes,
swallow?
Correct.
Sure.
And that's the question. Look, Wilson, I agree with you. I'm sure if all things were equal, Daniel would love to be back here, be with Dable, be with Kafka, be with Shea, and do it all over again. But this is business now. And look, don't just go into something counting on somebody doing something out of the goodness of their hearts. Generally, that's not how these things go. Maybe will Daniel be that guy? Sure. I don't know the answer to that. The Giants would love for him to be that guy. But I can't go into a situation just saying, Daniel likes the Giants. He's going to give him a break, and he's going to get a discount. It's going to be awesome. Like, I just can't walk into a situation assuming that's going to happen because literally in the history of the world that I've seen in the NFL the last 20 years, somebody hitting free agency for the first time, guys generally don't take discounts. That's all I'm saying.
The other day when we were on the show, John.
And not for nothing. Remember, they could have picked up his 5th-year option. You know, there's a chance he could be a little cranky about that too.
Russ compared him to Aaron Judge. And
well, he's not. Aaron Judge
no.
60 overall.
Not as an MVP candidate.
Oh, okay, I got
But
you.
as a hometown, homegrown guy.
Yes.
Who had his best season in his contract year.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And had to bet on himself because he wasn't given a choice to get an extension before. Now, Judge did have a choice and bet on himself. Jones just had to bet on himself out of necessity because he didn't have the 5th-year option. So he just had to have the best year of his career in his contract year if he wanted to get a good deal, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what it comes down to is no matter how this thing works out, there's a real good chance that we'll never really know if the player would have given a hometown discount or not, because after they sign, if they stay, they always say, well, this is where I always wanted to be.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah.
Right? So you never really know.
No, we're never going to know.
In Judge's case, though, it was interesting because he did admit that he was offered more money to go to San Diego.
Yeah.
And he wound up giving the Yankees the, quote, hometown discount.
Now,
not
again,
that
we
it
don't
was
know-
because he's still the richest player in baseball.
Right. Which is why I made the point there are levels to this, right?
And that's where
There are levels to this.
that's where your comment comes into play.
Right. And again, we're not negotiating in public here, but eventually this is going to be a business negotiation. Both sides are going to have to figure out what their, that Joe Shane has talked about what his walkaway number is for players, right? They'll have to figure out what his walkaway number is for Daniel. But remember, the franchise tag's there.
Yes.
So if they don't want him to leave, he's not leaving, period. And
Correct.
the franchise number is just around $32 million. So that's there as the non-exclusive tag. So, and then Daniel's going to have to make a decision, right? Would he rather, and again, we don't know what Daniel's thinking, but would he prefer to play on 1 year on a tag, maybe get better talent around him and try to get better? Maybe Burrow and Herbert sign extensions this offseason and the quarterback market goes up. See, Kirk Cousins 4 or 5 years ago. Does he prefer a 2 or 3 year deal where, all right, he gets a little bit more of a safety net in terms of amount of money in the bank, but he gets to hit free agency again in 2 or 3 years. That's contract number 2. Then you have contract number 3. I love it here. I want to be here. Let's sign the 5-year deal. We can spread the signing bonus out. Maybe I'll get a little bit more because they can spread the money out a little bit more, but then I'm not going to be on the market again in 2 or 3 years. So what's Daniel's priority? I have no idea. I don't think anyone right now, because, as of last week, the Giants had not started negotiating with him yet. So I don't think they know what his priorities are. So that's a big unknown, and frankly, we're never probably going to know what his priorities are because none of this stuff is public.
No.
That's it.
Hey, a hypothetical for you, John, and I know that the rest of the crew here doesn't like my idea of a quarterback cap, but what if I went the other way?
Oh, boy.
And said to you that the NFL adopt the bird rule in the NBA where you can re-sign one of your players regardless of the cap. Would you be okay with that?
I think the quarterback is so important as a position that it would unbalance the league. It would give a huge advantage to teams that have the great quarterback.
And that's players you drafted, isn't it?
Yeah, the bird rule as well. The players that not you drafted,
homegrown
but
guys
are,
to re-sign.
Not homegrown. They are on your roster already. For example, the Knicks would have bird rights to Jalen Brunson next time he hits free agency.
Oh, that's right.
The Knicks had bird
That's right.
rights to Julius
That's right.
Randle, for example.
That's right.
So
It's
anybody
when
that's
you
currently
re-sign,
on your roster,
it's a re-signing.
you have bird rights to.
Right.
That's correct. And I think maybe, and not, I don't think second round picks you have bird rights on either. I think you have to be first round picks or X
Oh, do
number
you?
of years.
I wasn't even aware of that.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
the point is
yeah,
something
but that's
along
my
those
point.
lines. Would you be okay with that?
No, I wouldn't.
You would not.
Because
Okay.
the quarterback is such an important position that the teams with the Mahomeses and the Josh Allens and the Burrows, they don't get any disadvantage to having the great quarterback. What makes the league so well balanced is that if you want to pay the great quarterback, it limits what you could do around them. Like Tyreek Hill would still be a Chief in your world.
Right.
Tyreek Hill never would have left the Chiefs.
Right. Because they would have enough money to do it.
Do you want the Eagles to continue with their awesome roster after they pay Jalen Hurts? Probably not. I wouldn't if I was a Giants fan.
Personally, I would just like to see the Eagles go right down the tubes.
Yeah, but if they never have to pay Jalen Hurts under the cap, it's never going to.
See, but
Because you don't have to commit money to the quarterback.
but see, the
don't you think the Cowboys would love for Dak Prescott and his $40 million not to count towards the cap? They could re-sign
of course
all their
they
guys.
would. Well, but see, the NBA felt that there was enough of a justification to the league to keep these superstars where they are because it helps the identity of the league
Yeah, but they have a luxury tax.
and the continuity. Well, they do. Maybe the NFL needs to do that too. Then I'm just saying that I think there's a better way to handle this. Too many times we've seen teams have to wind up getting either destroyed, ripped apart, or not be able to do what they feel they need to do because there's that one quarterback on the roster.
Yeah, but the NFL
who's
likes
making-
that. So you think that's a negative?
I, as a football guy, I think it's horrible. I hate it.
No, but that's why you have different teams in it every year.
Yeah, I get
The
it.
league wants that. Look at the Bills. The Bills went from the best roster in football 2 years ago. Now you're like, oh, they could draft anyone, any position because they have issues everywhere. Because they had to pay Josh Allen.
Okay, you're entitled to like it. I don't.
Oh, no. Look, me like or dislike, it doesn't matter. But I'm telling you, that's what makes the league popular.
Oh, the quicksand of mediocrity. They love that.
Well, and
I get it.
And I mean, it's not like these big quarterbacks rarely leave anyway. They always usually stay where they are. I mean, Lamar Jackson's going to be the real test case here, but
Well, between Carr and maybe Rodgers this year, but that would be a.
yeah. But the Raiders could keep Carr if they wanted. They don't want him anymore.
They could.
That's
Well,
their
not,
choice.
Not at 40.
They signed the contract a year ago.
Yeah, but now they don't want him at 40.
Well, that's their decision. They're not
It
being
is.
forced by
It
it.
is.
They
No,
chose to put
no.
themselves in that situation.
But they're not going to pick up his $40 million option because that would be so cap prohibitive. No matter how good he is, they're not going to pay that. That's
Someone will.
which I know.
Someone's going to.
I know the economy of this league. It's just that folks, is it my fault that I was born
Pearson,
in the golden
I
era
have
of the
the
NFL?
Perfect name of this episode for the title: Living in the Past.
Okay, there you go.
Pro Bowl, salaries, free agency.
Old Man Yells a Cloud is good too.
Oh yeah, that's actually pretty good. Old Man Yells a Cloud. That's not bad. I
Did
like
you
that.
see? I think it was Jeremy Fowler today said that they're possibly $100 million off Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Like
Really?
how
Oh,
far
boy.
they're
I did not see that.
Wow.
guaranteed 100.
Wait. Oh really? Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's gonna be the trick. That's like the first guy off his first contract that's a star quarterback that we haven't seen get done. We'll see. Anyway,
All right.
I'm going to get back to the calls. We kind of got off on a
I'm sorry.
sideway track there. That's okay. We got two more. We'll get to Len and Scott, and then we'll say goodbye. Len in Columbia, Maryland's up next. Hi, Len.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing great. How
What's
are you?
up, Len?
Just to capitalize on what Pearson just said, the word down here is that Jackson wants the contract fully guaranteed.
And by the way, Len, and we said this last year when it happened, this is why 31 owners in the National Football League, when they saw that Deshaun Watson contract last year,
They
were
all cried.
They wasn't crying. It was like throwing stuff. Like they were mad because it sets the precedent
That's right.
for, frankly, a quarterback that has a lot of issues, and again, when he was healthy and on the field, he was very good, but obviously there are other things going on there that now every other quarterback's going to be like, well, Deshaun Watson got it, I should get it too. And this is going to be a huge fight now back and forth between these star quarterbacks and their teams. And by the way, if you don't think Daniel Jones' agent has that in his back pocket too?
Yeah. Hey John, I'm going to ask permission if I could do a little history.
Granted.
I know you guys are great on. I know John loves it. Paulie will love it probably more than John will here. But here we go. You know, I was 15 years old. This is a long time ago. God, it's over 60 years ago. But I actually saw a Pro Bowl in the 50s.
Well, it was a different. It was a different Pro Bowl though.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Following the '58 season and following the '59 season, I saw two Pro Bowls. Sat in the Los Angeles Coliseum, an impressionable 15, 16-year-old kid, and yeah, we were actually for 1 year Rams season ticket holders. And so every once in a while I glance at Rams scores because I remember those days when we held Rams season tickets.
Wow.
But in any event, Frank Gifford, January 59, after the 58 season, most valuable player in the first one that I saw. And I'll tell you, it was pretty exciting. And as the years went on, Paul, you referred to the 70s. And the one thing that I always remember, and I got to a point where I didn't watch much of the game in the 70s and even into the 80s, but I loved the introduction of players. When they'd line up on the 40-yard lines and the cameras would scan the roster, the guys would have their helmets off. They'd hold them on their hand, against their hip, and you could actually see their faces, and you waited for those Giants players who were in the Pro Bowl. And, of course, in the 70s, it was Dave Jennings and nobody else, but at least you
Brad
got to
Van Pelt. Don't diss Van Pelt now. And Carson had a few of those in the 70s too.
All right, let me move on. Thank you for letting me do the memory thing.
You're welcome.
One other thing I wanted to point out, and John was talking about marketing. You know, when Bert Bell died suddenly in 1959, he was the commissioner, and the owners went out. The 12 of them went out and hired Pete Rozelle. Nobody had heard of Pete Rozelle. He was a second-level marketing guy with the Rams, public relations.
Right.
But he ushered in the marketing orientation in the NFL.
100%.
I mean, that was the start of it. Marketing became a key phrase, and you got to give Rozelle a lot of credit for that. Daniel, I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you do, but I'll put it in this. I'll state it this way: the Giants have to decide whether we're going to pay Daniel for who he is today, or whether the 15th, 16th, 17th best quarterback in the league, or whether we're going to pay Daniel for what we think he can be. That we think he's not anywhere near his ceiling, that it's much higher than the 15th best quarterback in the league.
No, that's a great point.
I think that's the point that they have to reach. What are we going to pay this guy for? Now, so here's a question for you. What do you think his ceiling is?
Well, Len, honestly, right now, and again, I'll probably end up doing this maybe later in the week with Howard or something like that. I've only done it off the top of my head, so I don't have anything written down in front of me, so don't hold me to this, fans. But even if you go through the quarterbacks right now, and instead of using the criteria of who's the best quarterback today, and you change it to who would you rather have for the next 3 to 5 years, Daniel's already top 15. He might be top 12 or 13.
Sure.
If you approach it that way.
Yes, if you approach it, who would you most rather have for the next 3 to 5 years? He might already be around top 12-ish.
Len, the question of paying for potential or the present, which is a very, very hard one to answer because the team is going to probably be more in the present and the agent's probably going to be more in the potential.
Yes. Oh, of course.
I think that's true.
Okay? Yeah. So what you have to do as the team, to be frank, the team has more of the responsibility of understanding where can they go as an offense and as a team with this guy as a quarterback. So they almost have the responsibility, more than the agent does, of trying to figure out the other side of that equation.
Well, and I think you do things like player comparisons and things like that, and that's how you kind of come to it.
And also what you plan or what you realistically believe you can add to help that quarterback reach more potential.
Right. Now, one thing I firmly believe, in this day and age, there's no such thing as a hometown discount. I mean, it's It's not the way the business operates.
Yeah, and again, Len, look, I think there is to a point where, look, if a team's like 500,000 ahead of the Giants, then maybe he picks the Giants. Yes, in that way, maybe, but we're not talking multiple millions of dollars here. I agree with you.
Right, and that's when that's when the 500,000, John, becomes multi-millions, because we're talking about 3, 4, maybe 5 years.
Right? No, it's a fair point.
I mean, it's a tough thing. All right. My opinion at this point, we're a long way from the draft. I'm leaning toward best player available. That always kind of changes.
At
but
25, Len, that's a pretty good bet.
Yeah,
I'm just going to
100%.
throw. I'm going to throw out. And here's who I think is going to be there at 25. This is today. I think the best player available at 25 on draft day is going to be the tight end from Notre Dame.
If he's there, he might be gone.
And
He's not going to be
You know
there.
what? If you know what, I would jump all over that.
He's a really terrific player. I don't see him being
God.
there.
A lot of people
He
think he
just
might not be the
changes-
first one off now.
If we don't draft him, he's going to terrorize us for 10 years.
Well, I hope he goes to the AFC.
Yeah.
Well, no. You know what,
Yeah,
Paul?
there you-
Paul likes him, which means he's going to Washington.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Oh my God. All right, there you go. All right. One other thing. Interior offensive line. John, you saw the kid from Minnesota.
Yeah, he's good.
Is he first round material?
Here's the problem.
Probably not, huh?
I don't know if I would pick him at 25, but I'm not sure he's going to get to 57 or whatever the second round pick would be. So that is
Right.
he's kind of. I would probably be more comfortable picking him between 30 and 40. Again, I haven't watched the whole class, so maybe I'll be like, all right, maybe I'd be okay with him in the late 20s, but that's my initial feel for watching him. But but good player. I like him a lot. I don't think he's quite as good as Creed Humphrey was a couple years ago when he was at the Senior Bowl for Oklahoma, and literally no one got by him the whole week, and he was unbelievable. But he's probably in a level slightly below that.
Right. Okay. One other thing. I'm moving toward interior offensive line.
Yeah.
As part of the discussion, we've got to fix the center. How long have I been on centers, John? I mean, it goes back to Richburg. I've been talking to you guys when
since O'Hara, let's be honest.
Saying we got to get. I mean,
since like Sean O'Hara and like David Boss, I guess, if you want to throw him in the mix, like you haven't. Yeah, basically they have not had a multi-year starting center since Sean O'Hara.
You know, Kevin Booth actually played better than Boss down the stretch in the 11th
You're right.
season.
Mm-hmm.
to
Well,
be
Boss
honest
got
with you.
hurt, right?
Yeah.
For a while. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Booth played better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we thought we were going to address it when we drafted Richburg, but
Yep.
I mean that didn't work out. But we have to address the center situation.
And by the way,
we have to address the left guard. We have to address the left guard.
And look, I would honestly be okay with bringing Gates back in one of those spots.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, John.
I would be. I thought he played well at the end of the year, Len. I really did. I thought he was good.
I'm a Gates
Here's
guy.
the
The
way-
problem is both he and Feliciano are free agents.
Right.
And you're going to need a little bit of cash to bring at least one of them back.
Now, again, Len, that doesn't mean I wouldn't want to draft one, too. And if he beats
Right.
out Gates, that's fine. I'm not going, top of the market for Nick Gates here. But remember, even if he doesn't start for you, he's a great swing guy to play right guard, left guard, and center off the bench.
There you go. He's my 8th offensive lineman.
Just
next
remember
year.
something, Len. Nick
seventh.
Gates, if he gets the opportunity, and I'm sure there are teams out there
he
who
has to
might,
cash in.
who
With that
might
injury?
say to him,
yeah.
we're going to make you a starter, he's going to take that.
And he should do it.
And he
should
should.
take it.
I'm not sure there's going to be that kind of market for him. Paul.
It doesn't have to be top of the market. It could just be mid-level to low-level starter, and that's going to be more than what the Giants might pay as a versatile reserve.
I think right now, if I counted correctly, we've got either 13 or 14 offensive linemen under contract, okay, or free agents and who we might be able to bring back, like Feliciano and Gates. There's 14 of them. I'd be comfortable with 3 of those guys as starters, and one. I've got a qualifier.
Well, Len, I could tell you right now, before we go, Glowinski's starting next year, Neal's starting next year, Andrew Thompson's starting next year.
No doubt.
Period.
Listen,
Stop. They're all
those were the
starters.
3. Those
Yes,
were the 3, John.
correct.
Those are the 3 I got, and I have a qualifier on Glowinski. Every team has a Glowinski on its offensive line, okay? What you need on the other side, what you need at right guard, is somebody who's better than Glowinski. You
mean
can't have
left guard.
2 guys.
Left guard.
So that's why I said, left guard. Thank you.
You're just brushing
So that's
aside
why I said
Azudu.
we have
That's
to address.
disappointing.
We can live with Glowinski. All right, he's priced right. He's in the second year of his contract. He played all year. I mean, he's availability. And he played pretty well. I thought, particularly down the stretch, he played a little better. So I'm comfortable with that. But the guy on the left, the left guard, has got to be better than Glowinski, John. That's how we grow. So I think I think we have to address that, and we got to address it early.
All right, we got to run then. Thank you, pal. Good stuff. I got to be honest. I thought Paul, and we'll get to the last call. I thought the last 6 games or so, the interior offensive line did okay in pass protection. The bigger issue is right tackle, to be quite honest with you.
Well, yeah, because Neal was terribly banged up. I mean, I'll give you a good example, right? All right, according to my sack chart, Lewinsky's last sack was given up in the home game against Washington. He did not give up a sack the rest of the season. He gave up 4.5 on the year.
I thought Bredesen and Gates' rotation worked okay. I would probably rank them slightly above Feliciano, I would think.
You know what's
in
funny?
The way I look at it, but
I got Bredesen for giving up 1 sack the whole year.
Bredesen was pretty good when he played.
He did okay.
Yeah.
He did okay, and that surprised me. I did not think that he had that kind of upside.
And again, if you have a chance to get like some huge upgrade at a low cost, that's fine. I just don't think the team's in a position here where you could pay top dollar for a guard or center. You're not. Based on the rest of their cap situation. So at that point, would you rather have the solid guy that you know that maybe doesn't cost as much? And again, I'm okay. Bring a Zudu back, give him a chance to compete. Maybe draft another guy in the 3rd or 4th round, give him a chance to compete. You have Lemieux back.
Keep this in mind on Zudu.
I'm okay with that.
When he came in, he was supposed to be a redshirt. He wasn't supposed to play as a rookie. He was supposed to make this team as a backup, and they were going to coach him up because he left North Carolina a year early. All right? He was not supposed to be in the mix to be a potential starter. And because of all the injuries, all of a sudden, he was thrust in there. So don't be too harsh on grading him. He was raw. All right? He's big, he's very strong, and he's very athletic. There's a lot of potential with Zudu. So just because he was prematurely thrown into the starting lineup for half of the season doesn't mean that he cannot be the future left guard.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that he is either.
Don't know that.
Right. So we'll see. I don't consider that as big of a need as other people do.
I agree with you. I don't think it is.
I wouldn't argue with an upgrade. I wouldn't be against it, but I don't think it's like a drop dead, you better do it or you're screwed type of situation.
My big thing with the O-line is you need to solidify the center spot.
Yeah, I agree.
Either Gates is coming back and he's going to be the guy, or if you believe that you can get an upgrade, then you do it. That, to me, is the spot. I'm not worried about the guards.
Scott in New Mexico, he wants to talk about the linebackers, which I think off-ball inside linebacker is a much bigger need than interior offensive lineman. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, that's actually my point. One thing the NFL teaches us is you have to stop the run. And we have Ojolari, Thibodeau, Lawrence, and Williams, and we're going to need some additional people to back them up. But the one weakness I think the Giants have, and it should be addressed because of drafting at 25, I think you addressed the issue, John, that there won't be that many corners potentially left. And I think you can get a wide receiver in the 2nd round. But people like Will Anderson, Andre Carter, Tyree Wilson, Trenton Simpson, somebody you mentioned before, Noah Sewell, they may be available. I know Andre Carter plays for Army, but Army has a special dispensation where you can actually play in the NFL and then honor your commitment.
Yeah, by the way, just real quick, Scott, Andre Carter's an edge player. He's not going to be a first-round pick, so I would not think about him. And Tyree Wilson's also an edge player. He's not an off-ball inside linebacker. But Trenton Simpson and Drew Sanders are 2 guys. Drew Sanders is from Arkansas. Are probably the 2 first-round inside linebackers that could get picked this year. And there's a couple other guys, too. But those are the 2 guys that come to mind immediately that could be the off-ball linebacker types.
Okay. And do you think they'd be available at 25?
Yeah. I don't think it's guaranteed, but I think there's a chance.
Right. And if they get Beavers, which I know you're both high on, does that complement the defense a little bit better and make them more universal in regards to being able to stop the run? That was my central question. I know you're short on time, so I'll take your answers off the air.
No, appreciate it, Scott. Thank you for being brief. We appreciate it. Look, I think Beavers will help. I think off the ACL, you never know how quickly a guy's going to recover.
Right.
So you have to take that in consideration. But
thank goodness it was early.
Yeah, and is he your 1A inside back or is he your 1B inside
Don't know
backer?
the answer to that.
Neither do I. Because remember, they're going to play that safety and nickel spots a lot. So do they want him as a true 3-down guy, or do they want him more as a first and second guy? Then they want another linebacker. Because Beavers is a bigger guy. He's not like a 4-4 runner. He's not like super duper fast.
No.
And
He's
especially-
athletic though, and
No.
he did show some cover skills and some blitz skills.
I love
in
Beavers.
Cincinnati.
No one was higher in Beavers in the preseason than I was. I was a
love the
huge
guy.
Beavers guy. So, and I loved him in the draft too. Remember, I was shocked he got picked so late. So, I don't know how they view him. I do think they believe he will help when he gets healthy.
He's part of the solution, John. The question
Yes, I
is
don't know
how
if
big a
he's-
part,
Yeah, correct. It's a perfect way to put it.
and that will determine the impetus to look at another inside linebacker and how high you're going to look at one. If you think a lot about Beavers like we do, you might kind of put off the inside backer a little bit.
Look,
But
Wink
if you-
said it a
if you
million
don't-
times. You have a slow middle linebacker. You have a slow defense.
Yeah, he has said that many times. Yeah.
He wants speed and length. That's what he wants out of a middle linebacker.
Now, Beavers,
which is Drew Sanders out of Arkansas, just FYI.
right. Now Beavers is more of a bopper.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and trust me, you need one of those guys too. There's,
And to stop the run, by the way, you also need more depth on the defensive line. Because
Well,
once you got past Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence,
that's it.
and Nick Williams got hurt, who I thought was a bigger loss than people gave him credit for, it was a disaster.
yeah,
It was bad.
yeah. Oh,
So
there's no doubt.
You need, they're going to,
That third defensive tackle is something you're going to want to look at.
like, I think fans might be surprised. The Giants are going to go out there in free agency. They're probably going to pay for a third defensive tackle, and it's not going to come as cheap as fans want it to be. It's going to be a couple million probably.
I think it's got to be a plugger though, John.
That's fine, whatever it is, but I don't think it's
gotta
going to
be a
be it's
plugger.
not going to be a league minimum player.
They've tried to fill that spot, that plugger spot. They tried to do it with Jelly Ellis.
Yep.
That was not a good move. The year before, they tried to do it with that former Patriot and Texan. What the heck was his name now? I'm losing track. I'm forgetting his name.
It's escaping me now.
And he Danny Shelton.
Yeah, Danny Shelton.
And
thank you.
he was just not the answer. I mean, they've tried to get that guy now 2 years in a row, and they failed both times. So maybe you get one in the draft this year.
Good stuff, Paul.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'm back with Cross tomorrow on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Make sure you stay with us all this week. And just a reminder, programming next week, we're not going to have no shows in terms of Big Blue Kickoff Live. I'll try to get a huddle or draft season out there for you if I can. We're working on that this week. So make sure you stay tuned. But, yeah, most of our department's getting off next week. Pearson, his parents were going to disown him if he didn't go back to Massachusetts, so we had to send him home, which is great. He'll enjoy that. And we'll get us some time off because we all need to, recharge our batteries.
I think he's going to that Brock Osweiler autograph signing up in Boston, too.
I don't think he's doing that. For Pearson, for Paul, I'm Schmeelk. We'll see you next time on Big Blue Kickoff Live.